Welcome to Smartwatch Authority. Today we'll be talking about the future of Huawei, how the ban affects Huawei, and what it means for Huawei watch owners. Right. So I think one of the things that we want to look at Huawei is to really study the history all the way back 10-20 years, right, and figure out what is this issue really all about, right? So I think the issue here, based on our research, is a lot on security, national security, right, and the fact that China could be spying on America. But this security issue is not it's not specific to China and not specific to any nation, right? Every country in the world is afraid of being spied upon, and they are also concerned about every other country that could spy on them, right? So this is a worldwide concern for every single nation. Okay, but everybody kind of has their eyes turned to Huawei because it is the biggest power right now, right? If Huawei was not the biggest, the world will just be focusing on the biggest company right now that could pose the largest security concern, right? And why US is not interested in Google and Facebook posing security concern is because they are in America. And actually, there was already a previous concern that happened in Facebook, which was privacy security concerns, right? So this is not the first security concern the world has seen. Okay, and if we look into Huawei, you will realize that the very first few concerns already happened very long ago, right? So this is the computerworlduk.com research, right? Even back in 2001, which is like almost 20 years ago, right? India has already accused Huawei of aiding terrorist attacks. So back in 2007, which is about 10 years ago, right? The Bush administration in America has already raised issues on Huawei, right? With regards to their Huawei and 3Com deal. Right, and of course the issue is about spying as well, right? It's also about spying as well. So the security concerns really go back to more than 10 years ago, right? And I'm sure that the owner of Huawei, right, was aware more than 10 years ago. This is not an issue that just recently surfaced. I think it caught media attention recently, but it's not something that it's not a recent issue, right? It is something that has gone more than 10 years ago. And even in 2012, right? 2012. Australia already banned Huawei from their broadband network, so there has already been another country that has been concerned with Huawei's broadband network, which is the internet infrastructure, right? So there's already a country that has been concerned about there's already been a country that's been concerned about Huawei's infrastructure security concerns, right? Not just America. And in 2013, okay, such as Sprint, they already started to block Huawei deals, right? So Huawei was already receiving some form of sanctions. I didn't say who. Only Nextel. I'm guessing AT&T, but I don't want to say it because I never say AT&T, right? So this is really an issue that has at least 20 years of history, right? And affecting Huawei directly for at least the last 10 years, right? So I think the higher management and the CEO of Huawei probably already know of such a concern. It's not something that is new, right? Which led to their research on the Arc OS, which was previously known as Hongmen OS in 2012, right? So this is an entirely believable story because they were already aware of this more than 10 years ago. And 2012 is like 7 years back, right? So which means that they actually probably took action after a few years of being warned, right? So which is almost the time that they got banned from Australia, right? That's kind of the time when they started researching on the Arc OS. Okay, so I think this whole storm really started, right, in America, right, where it started gaining media attention sometime in May 2018, right? So that's when the Pentagon actually bans the sale of Huawei phones on all US military bases, right? But that probably nobody has heard of it at that point in time, right? But that's when the thing really started to brew already. Okay, but when you heard about it, right, that's probably like sometime in January 2019, which is the start of this year, right? That's when America started suing Huawei owner himself and accusing him of a criminal lawsuit, right? So sometime around the start of this year, there has been I think that's when the media attention started to brew, right? When they wanted to arrest Huawei's CFO, right, based on some allegations of security issues. Okay, and what happened was that the CFO doesn't actually have anything to do with the CEO, right? But it was still a security issue that started started this whole media craze about what was going to happen to Huawei. And then May is when the whole thing really just exploded, right? So most of you guys probably heard the story sometime in May, right? When Google started to, when Trump actually gave an executive order to ban, to all the companies, to ask them to ban Huawei. And that's when Google came out and said, okay, we ban Huawei, and then everybody else just follow along. Okay, we ban Huawei, everybody started banning Huawei, right? And of course, right after that, a few weeks after that, somehow people seems to change their minds, right? People seem to change their minds. People start saying, oh, you know, welcome back to the Bluetooth Association. You know, we didn't actually ban you. Actually, all we did is to restrict you from future updates, but actually you still can use it, but even though you cannot contribute. And then Google is now talking to the government, right, to try to say that, hey, you know what, actually it's better to continue allowing Huawei to use the Android OS, right? But you see, there's been this to and fro, right? And nobody really knows what's going to happen, because one day you ban them, second day you say that 1 week later you change your mind, you say that it's better to let them use the OS. Another week you ban them again. What's really going to happen, right? So that's what we are trying to discuss here. So we want to talk a little bit about this spy threat. Okay, this spy threat is not only specific to Huawei in China, right? In fact, referring to the article from SCMP by Singapore ex-minister George Yeo, the Huawei ban will not stop spy threat to US, right? Because US and others are doing it too. Everybody is spying on each other. If you refer to the latest video from the Prime Minister's office, one of the top 3 videos, right? It's on the Prime Minister's office of Singapore. The talk by PM Lee Hsien Loong, right? He actually says that there is this issue online, right? Because of the cloak of anonymity, and basically nobody knows who is doing what, right? So there is an incentive for everybody to spy on each other because you will not get caught, right? So basically everybody is doing it. So a ban on Huawei does not actually stop this security threat, right? The security threat is still there, right? So the solution is not for America to shut out Huawei, because shutting out Huawei simply shuts out the biggest noise, right? Shuts out the biggest guy. But then there's a second and a third guy and a fourth guy that all poses the exact same security threat that Huawei does. This article is on CNET, talking about Huawei not needing the US, right? So I think we want to think a little bit about Huawei. Who does Huawei really serve, right? Their main market, their main customers all come from China and Europe. So US and Australia, all these news that's happening, right? US banning them, Australia banning them, all these people that ban Huawei, right, barely make up less than 10 or 20% of Huawei's business. So even if all these guys that are in the news ban Huawei, right, how much does it really affect Huawei when more than 80% from Huawei's business is not from these people that ban them? Probably not very much, right? So Huawei is probably going to do fine. Probably going to do fine, because Huawei doesn't need US, Huawei does not need Japan, Huawei does not need Australia. All these bans will not may slow down Huawei, but it's not going to cause Huawei to collapse, because they were not serving them in the first place. Huawei is barely serving only 1% of America, right? So even if you cut out this 1% of America, it's not going to affect them much, right? But that doesn't mean that Huawei, this is not an important case for Huawei, because they still need to buy parts from America, right? So this is something that they have committed to all these contracts, right? That they say that, they're going to buy all these parts 1 year in advance. And what we are seeing right now is that for most of these contracts, for almost all the contracts that we have found, right, they are honoring their contracts and they are going ahead to buy the parts. And this is also in line with their sales figures. It has been rising steadily and consistently over the last 2 years, despite all these bans, right? So the story matches, right? Everybody's complaining about you, but you are growing fast. Your sales is going up all the way despite all these bans and complaints, and you are purchasing all the parts that you said you would, as promised, right? It would seem that all these news are not as serious as it seems, right? It's just being over sensationalized, right? Huawei is fine. So the next thing we want to talk about, right, is the upcoming UpOS, right? Whether it's actually going to be launched, when is it going to be launched? How is the UpOS going to fare against Android and Apple, right? So okay, I think a lot of people has been saying, the UpOS. I think there are two camps of thoughts in terms of UpOS. There are one that say, oh my God, it's going to be better, 6 times faster than Android and Google, right? And 6 times faster than Android and Apple, And I think there's another camp that's like, we have never really seen this OS before. How is it really going to perform, Okay, so I think we want to talk a little bit about this Arc OS. Is Huawei, how serious is Huawei about this Arc OS? Right, we think that they are very, very serious about this Arc OS. Okay, and you know, Google is coming back and saying, oh, you know, maybe we should let them continue using the Android OS. We don't think that this is going to change anything. Okay, we think that whether Google allows or does not allow Huawei to use the Android OS, within the next 1 to 2 years anyway, right, they are still going to roll out the Arc OS. Even if Google allows them to continue using Android, and America says, okay, you know, we change our mind and we allow you to continue using the Android OS, we think all that's going to happen is that maybe Huawei is going to take another 1 more year and delay the release of Arc OS. They are not going to stop. They are not going to stop development of Arc OS. This is a project that has already been happening in 2012. And if you think about it, right, how can you rely on someone that changes their mind every other week, right? And how do you know when they are going to release their when they are going to stop you from using their services? You can't, right? But which is why they developed this Arc OS in the first place. Okay, but I think something we need to be aware of is that the mobile OS as of today is very advanced. The first Android OS, I believe was the first stable version that everybody was using was probably sometime in 2006, right? And now it has been close to 15 years since the development of the OS, and this Android and the Apple OS has seen about 10 years of development and development environment user testing. Okay, and no matter how good you are as a Arc OS, if you don't have this 10 years of user testing, you are going to be behind, right? So we think that this Arc OS is not okay. Maybe you see that's why we have to look at the Wear OS and how it's performing, right? Even though the Wear OS has been impressive, it has limited features, right? So we think Arc OS is probably going to be the same as everything else that Huawei in terms of OS, right? It's going to be similar to Wear OS. It's probably going to be good in some areas, probably better in maybe launching of 1 or 2 common apps. But overall, we think that they are probably still going to be behind, right? Just like why the Wear OS, even though propelled Huawei to 3% and the 5th spot, is still the 5th spot, right? They are still behind the incumbents of Apple, Samsung, Fitbit, Amazfit, right? They are still behind, and that's the kind of position that Arc OS is probably going to be. It's probably going to be number 3 for at least 3 years. But based on how the technology has been developing in China, right, we can see that WeChat is a very big very famous app, right? We can see that it's one of the most advanced integrated payment, transport, chat system in the world, right? So that is the kind of standard that we can envision Arc OS will become in 5 years' time, right? Very likely to be better than Android, and maybe not Apple, but pretty sure that it will be better than Android within the next 5 years, right? But at least you know, it's not possible for it to become better immediately. There's a need for user testing. There's a need to create a developers market, right? And the fastest they can do this is still 2 to 3 years. So we expect Arc OS to definitely be released within the next 2 years, regardless of what America says about the Android, right? We still think that this is going to be released. We still think maybe a little slower, and we think that it's going to be behind. But we think that there will be some applications where they outperform Android. But generally speaking, Android will be a better option over the next 3 to 4 years, while Arc OS creates the developer marketplace and conducts enough user testing to bring themselves forward. And we believe that the China's talents in programming and software development will exceed that of what will propel Arc OS to be better than Android within the next 5 years. This is what we think. Okay, and we think that Arc OS is something that China will release anyway. And I think I want to talk a little bit about the adoption of Arc OS. Okay, let's say Arc OS gets released. Okay, we are sure Arc OS is going to get released. Okay, who is going to be using Arc OS? Is it America? Is it Australia? Is it Japan? No, it's not. Right? The people who will be using Arc OS will actually be from China themselves. Okay, and if we question the adoption of Arc OS, I think we need to look at how what application. See, a lot of people talk about, oh, you know, if you use the OS, then you lose all the Android applications that are on it, right? But that's a very American perspective. Okay, in China, in the first place, right, they are not using your messenger. They are using their own QQ messenger, right? They are not using your Google search. They're using Baidu. In the first place, everybody in China, which is its main market, are already not on the famous American applications because they have been blocked, right? They are already on the China applications. So to use ArcOS is a natural next step for people in China, right? Because they are already using their own custom app. They are already accustomed to not using the famous American apps that we are used to, and the ArcOS is a natural step to take to test out another Chinese software, which they have been doing, right? And I think with the big hoo-ha, and I think the China guys are very supportive of their government. They have this national pride thing going on, right? And what happens is that, when there has been such a fight between China and America, I think it makes them even more excited to adopt ArcOS when it happens, right? So, and of course, the second group of people that adopts ArcOS is actually Europe. Okay, and if you can see, recently Huawei has actually applied for trademarks and licenses in China and Europe itself with regards to the ArcOS and its environment, right? And we can see that, I would think that they would approve all the licenses, right? You don't see Huawei trying to apply for this license in America or Japan, where obviously they are not very welcome, right? So I'm guessing that Europe would very much welcome them. So Google now, suddenly turning around and saying, oh, we don't want to ban Huawei. I think it doesn't really matter what the government says, right? They just give them a slightly longer runway. They are going to launch ArcOS anyway, right? Yeah, so I think all the other Chinese companies would also want to adopt ArcOS as time comes along, right? Because what's going to happen to them? Right, they are just going to be banned just like Huawei, because they would be the next biggest, right? Huawei got banned because they're the biggest, and when Huawei is gone and you're the next biggest, you're the next biggest mobile manufacturer, US going to do exactly the same to you as they did to Huawei. Okay, and I think one thing about software development that we want to talk about is that, software development is really not easy. Even though China has shown a lot of promise in terms of their software development, America has always been leading in the last 30, 40 years, right? All the major amazing applications has still been from America, okay? And the Android and the Apple environment is one such example, okay? And to expect the ArcOS to reach that standard can be a very big challenge, right? Because this is actually, the operating system is actually one of the highest level of technology and invention that the American has. So even though China is really, really good at it, it's not going to be a breeze for them to just develop ArcOS to be better, right? This is the frontier of technology. So we think that Huawei is going to have challenges to it's not going to be an easy thing for them to push ArcOS to be better than Android, okay? And we think that in order to do that, there is a particular company called Tencent, right? Tencent is actually the owner of WeChat, and we have seen what WeChat can do, right? WeChat is probably one of the single most amazing application in China, right? That has caught everybody's attention, and we think that Tencent is crucial to help to develop ArcOS beyond Android standards, okay? But for that to happen, what's the relationship that Huawei has with Tencent? Okay, and based on our research from Telecom Economic Times, IndiaTimes.com, right? Based on our research of the relationship between Tencent and Huawei, we can see that there has been previous cooperation between Tencent and Huawei, right? With regards to streaming service and also other services, right? So we see that they have, in fact, recently, just in right after the ban, right? Huawei and Tencent have came to work together on some software services, right? And we foresee that Tencent will participate, okay, in the development of the. I think the exciting times are ahead of us for Huawei, right? Huawei is, if you think about it, Huawei, the kind of environment that Huawei serves is very different from the American environment. The American environment is that of the developed world, right? But the Huawei actually offers, I would say, middle level technology, right? They are not at the frontier. Their pricing is also right in the middle, and American was never its initial. It was never its most important market, right? So Huawei's target market is the developing group of the middle income people, the middle income guys, the developing nations, right? And this group of people has been open to Huawei and will continue to be open to Huawei, right? And we foresee that a lot of improvement will happen in this area, right? We foresee that much more people, the adoption of Huawei's technology and Huawei's products will continue to accelerate, right? Beyond your current expectation of what is going to happen to Huawei, right? And we will see a lot of the exciting developments from Huawei over the next 5 years, and I think this is definitely something we want to look at, right? In terms of, I mean, think about it, the war between China and America, one of the main contenders, one of the main factors of consideration, one of the main things you think about is technology, right? And right at the forefront of China's consumer technology is Huawei, right? And that's exactly the next amazing technological product that you're going to buy is probably going to be from Huawei, right? So I think that's exactly where you want to pay attention to, right? But you know, if you're in America, I'm not sure if you can buy the Huawei products, because from what we can see, you know, China has successfully blocked up Google, and if America wants to really place a 100% ban on Huawei products, they can do that, and they can block all services, right? But for those who are in for those of you who are in all parts of the world, well, look out for Huawei products, right? I think something's about to happen, right? But probably not for the next 1 year, right? Because now they are in the adjustment period. I don't think anything exciting is going to happen in the next 1 or 1.5 years, right? But I think once they start releasing the OS, once it's released, right, I think a lot of developers are going to come in, a lot of companies are going to come in, right? And within the half a year to 1 year after the release of the OS, we will see a lot of interesting applications of the OS that that is beyond our wildest imagination. So watch out for that. Okay, so what should you do with your Huawei device if you have just bought it recently? So if you are in the US, right, and you have a Huawei product, I think it might be wise for you to sell it. Where I come from in Singapore, I think everybody is already trying to offload their Huawei devices, and you know, mobile shops are already not accepting Huawei as a trade-in device. So the Huawei device value has plummeted to close to zero. Well, actually it's exactly zero. That's how much they give for the Huawei trade-in device. So you know, if you are in America, I think you might really want to consider selling your device away, right? Because you know, they don't really welcome them. You know, even how much support are you going to get? I think it's going to be limited, and you know, not just that, I think you're going to be pretty worried about what happens to your device after that. So you know, I would advise you to sell your device away if you're in America. Okay, but if you are in any part of all other parts of the world, right, I think it's okay to keep the device. I think any kind of ban that America has on you is not going to it has on Huawei. Any kind of ban that America has on Huawei is not really going to affect the Huawei users, because it's only limited to America, right? Huawei has over the last 5 years demonstrated that they are capable of developing their own support, right? They have their own chips. Whatever they are buying from America, all of them they are actually able to produce their own, right? So I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. And I think it also depends on, you know, how excited are you to see what is coming up. How excited are you to see what Huawei is going to develop, right? I think that's kind of like a balance. You know, how excited are you to see what Huawei has to develop, and how concerned are you over the actual functionality of the device, right? I guess it's probably going to be compromised slightly, right? Because all these bans are probably going to slow down. You know, instead of 4 updates a year, they're probably going to go down to 3 because they're busy dealing with the ban. Are you okay with that? Right? If you're okay with that, go ahead with the Huawei, right? Probably, I think your performance will probably drop by maybe 10-20%, right? If that's not a concern for you, keep the device. If that is, sell it away. If you're really excited to see what Huawei has in store for you, which I am, I think you want to keep your device, right? If you're from all over the world. But for America, not so much, right? Not so much. Americans should really sell it away. I think maybe you can sell overseas. Okay, thank you for watching Smartwatch Authority. Thank you for watching our video, right? So we appreciate your viewership very much. So if you have any questions, please just leave it in the comments below, right? Or you can click here to subscribe, 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 wherever the button is. Okay, help us to like and share. Okay, help us to like and share. Okay, help us a little bit. Okay, yeah. If you have any questions for Huawei, you know, you can comment also. You know, we will gather the data and we'll send it to Huawei. We'll call them for you. Okay, I'm very free. I'll call them for you.